talk to you about something.
Oh, go ahead.
I am pregnant.
Next Thursday,
He's sexy and he's fun. I don't know if he'll ever be more than that.
relationships are complicated.
I don't know Link's parents' names, and I am having a baby with him.
And nobody does complicated like Grey's.
Life is too short to deprive ourselves.
Only Grey's Anatomy, next Thursday, 8/7 Central on ABC.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the trailer for Breathe Again. I thought it was a really well-constructed trailer, and if you just want to get to the trailer discussion, there is a chapter time in the video description. But let's discuss It's Raining Men, which, unfortunately, in my opinion, is a boring episode. Not bad. So far, none of Season 16 has been bad. But I would say last week and this week are background noise episodes. You can do other things without having to pay full attention. And the reason why I say this episode particularly is very background noise is nothing really happened, and there was a lot of potential for really important, intense moments to happen, but they all led to nothing, which is unfortunate. So let's break the episode down, and I have a good chunk of notes, so we'll have a good discussion, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments below. So the umbrella storyline of the episode is Meredith's article is causing massive pandemonium through all of Grey Sloan. And Meredith is trying to do massive, massive damage control. And in the end, her efforts are for naught. And it's a little upsetting that nothing she's doing, or everything she's doing, is leading to nothing. And then for DeLuca, at the end of the episode, to be like, Meredith, like you had two choices, and you chose wrong. And, Meredith doesn't do well with criticism. We've seen this with Derek. And I thought that was a little uncharacteristic of him. I mean, he's very much on her side, so I feel like he would just be like, okay, Mare, like, here's my opinion, but I'm glad you did what you did. Let's work through the results of it. But the real big climax to Meredith's story is her talking to Bailey, and that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to get into Bailey's office, and she did. And her discussion with Miranda was so small and lacked emotion, and I was expecting an argument. I was expecting tears. I mean, these characters have known each other since day one. Season 1, episode 1, have these characters known each other, and they've been through so much together. And to have, Bailey, who has been attacked, and Meredith, who's one of her former friends, I would say, to try to explain what's happening and to have none of it pan out in a dramatic, emotional argument was a little bit of a letdown. It's very much what I expected, and it didn't happen. So I would have just enjoyed to have more drama. Ellen Pompeo and Chandra Wilson, fantastic dramatic actresses. Why not use that? And I feel like they're going to be using Chandra Wilson in comedy for the next couple episodes of the season because she's pregnant. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I have to say, I think making her pregnant and Amelia pregnant, it's a little much. So Meredith's storyline, is the umbrella. It's one of the A's. It's another A storyline, which involves Jackson. We'll talk about that in a sec. But I felt that its impact was very minute in terms of the entire season, and it wasn't the most interesting, unfortunately. However, the ramification of her skipping her community service hours is going to lead into a problem for next week's episode, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I like when Grey's Anatomy can mix medical and legal. I always think that's fun. So, Jackson and Karasik butt heads over this reconstructing of a skull procedure. Karasik is trying to get some good press for the hospital because of what Meredith did. Karasik's thinking like a businessman. Jackson doesn't think that way. Jackson kind of thinks with his head, but he thinks with his heart as well. That's actually one really good defining characteristic of Jackson. He's emotional, but he's business savvy. But here, he's all about the emotion. And I like that he didn't get along with Karasik. I mean, Tom's a tough sell, and he's definitely an acquired taste. I get why Teddy liked him, because Teddy has an acquired taste in people. Christina, Owen, I mean, I like them, don't get me wrong, but I think it takes a very special person to constantly want to be around them. Anyway, Jackson and Karasik butt heads over the procedure. Jackson alters the procedure. He gets Amelia involved in it. Karasik is kind of like, okay, like, I guess you're just going to one-up me. Jackson went on a high horse about how he's his boss. And honestly, even this storyline, which was another A storyline, this was a really, really big moment. Like, there was many scenes of Jackson and throughout this entire episode. And Jesse Williams, as good of an actor as he is, he didn't make me have any vested interest in the storyline at all, which is unfortunate. I wanted to see more of Tom, and Tom's the main character this season. And I just found the storyline really, really dull. So both A storylines were boring, regrettably. Now, another storyline that we have is Owen at Pac North. And Owen at Pac North was essentially used for comedy, and he got a job there. He quit working at Grace Sloan Memorial because of the restraining order with Tom, which Tom, by the way, dropped, and then said, Owen, you can work at Grace Sloan again. And Owen was like, yeah, no, I'll just work at Pac North. And he's with Alex and Richard. And honestly, Alex and Richard felt very irrelevant in this episode, which is unfortunate. But I think Richard will have a nice storyline, or at least an interesting storyline next week. So Owen, Alex, and Richard were off being comedic. The storyline is that of comedy, and Owen got a job. And honestly, this is why it's a background episode, because it doesn't lack any gravitas that you expect from Grey's Anatomy. And not every character, every episode needs to have a dramatic moment or a very compelling moment or even a memorable moment. But when you are reviewing each episode one at a time, you notice how certain characters in certain episodes get the shaft. Speaking of the shaft, Teddy and Maggie very much got the shaft as well. And I thought that was unfortunate. Kim Raver, I don't know what they're doing with her this season. Maggie, it looks like she's going to have some form of role next week. I thought originally they were going to try to make Maggie just like the jealous ex, which I'm glad they're not going with. But Teddy and Maggie felt very, very useless throughout this whole episode. Another character that felt useless was Link. DeLuca had potential for a successful storyline, especially when Bailey appointed him chief resident. But honestly, his storyline just was nothing. His whole thing was, okay, I'm going to be stressed out, and that stress is going to lead me to be mean to Meredith. But you don't even really see his stress of dealing with the responsibilities of being a chief resident. So I thought, just from like a writing standpoint, we could have seen more of DeLuca. Link, as I said, was useless, but he admitted that he loved Amelia, which I liked. That was cute. And I'm looking forward to seeing Link next week. I think Chris Carmack's great. I've grown to love Chris Carmack. He grew on me as a doctor and an actor. So I'm curious to see more of his storyline next week. Also, just as a side note, other things I did like about this episode, and this is if you have it as background, you're going to miss it. There's a texting cameo of Christina, which I thought was fantastic, with Christina essentially telling Meredith to move to Switzerland. I love that as a fan of Christina and Meredith's friendship. And then there's also a really nice moment in the beginning of the episode with the three sisters, which is also in the trailer for next week as well. I'm a big fan of sister moments throughout the show. Now, Bailey and Maggie had some funny moments as well, especially when Maggie told Bailey she's pregnant. Bailey's like, what? I can't be pregnant. I feel like, as I said, the pregnant storyline is going to be used for comedy, but I'm glad it was Kelly McCreary that told Bailey she was pregnant. Maggie, was involved a little bit with Bailey, a little bit with Teddy, but Teddy was kind of useless, and Bailey was like the crux of Meredith's storyline, and Bailey just being pregnant, it just ended up being like a random twist to it. And then again, Meredith and Bailey's storyline would have been more interesting had Meredith and Bailey had an argument. Another character to discuss is Jo, but poor Jo just felt like a sounding board throughout this entire episode. She talked to Jackson, she talked to Meredith, she talked to Bailey, she talked to Luca. Honestly, poor Jo, she needs something else to do. Like, her storyline was such a big deal, and with the rape of her mother and everything, but to have her storyline just be kind of null and void, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, Camilla Luddington's very talented. You have so many talented actresses and actors. I find the problem is, if you want a story to be very interesting, you need to trim the fat of the cast per episode. I mean, definitely when you have big episodes, bring them all together. But an episode like this, they could have done a lot of focusing on Meredith and Bailey, and then they could have done a lot with Teddy and Maggie, and then they could have done Amelia, Link, and Jackson, and Karasik as well, and just had left Owen, Richard, and Weber out of the episode, and even Jo. And then there wouldn't even be a discussion, because then you could see them next week. I get it for the way that the contracts are done. They're assigned for at least a minimal amount of episodes. But honestly, I think if you remove some characters per episode, it just allows for better storylines to be seen. So overall, It's Raining Men. It had potential, but it ended up just kind of being a little bit of a letdown for me. The description of the episode was very intense. The trailer only showed one storyline, and at the end of the day, I think there was the one storyline trailer reflects that the episode itself is kind of a flat episode. Again, with the episode ended with Mayor Luca possibly breaking up. They can't break up. I mean, they spent a whole season coming together. Breaking them up at this point would be foolish. So, I thought the episode was a B-. Honestly, like it's like the lowest. I try not to give anything below a B-. B- is like absolute chill in the background, just enjoy whatever you're doing, and while you have the hospital noise going on. And that's what this episode felt like to me. I'm curious what you have to say in the comments below. So now, let's talk about Breathe Again, which is season 16, episode 5. So let's discuss the episode description, and then we'll talk about the trailer. Meredith has a court hearing after skipping out on community service. While Bailey and Joe have a patient that Joe realizes is from the treatment facility, Richard and Gemma grab breakfast together and things go awry. So, Meredith's storyline is not reflected in the trailer at all, but there is some cool scenes of Meredith, Amelia, and Maggie in the trailer, which I like. I like, again, seeing the sister shots. Like that one shot of Maggie, Meredith, and Amelia all together, or at least Maggie and Amelia, and then seeing Meredith talk to them, I thought was great. And speaking of that, I don't get why she's discussing breaking up with Andrew. I mean, again, you spent a whole season trying to get together, and then to have them want to break up, I think is foolish. Like, no, Mayor Luca must stay together. I think it took, 4 seasons to get Meredith and Derek together, and then they killed Derek several seasons later. But honestly, do not do a season where you try very hard to get them together and then crush it. I think that's absolutely foolish. But I really do like the scene of them talking about Meredith in the trailer, or talking about DeLuca in the trailer. I think that's really cool. And then we have then we have Link being discussed by Amelia. There's a lot of interesting things that Meredith, or that Amelia can have go on with Link, and I'm curious what his parents will be like. Now, the court hearing, I think, will be a really interesting storyline as well. I'm assuming the scene in the beginning of the scene opening the episode, will be Meredith talking to Amelia and Maggie about DeLuca, and then it will go into the court hearing because she did skip out on her hour. She owed like 5, so who knows what will happen there. Bailey and Joe with the patient from the treatment facility. I bet that'll be interesting. Camilla Dunnington finally needs something to do. I'm hoping Bailey will get to do something in this episode. The opening scene in the trailers are telling Ben she's pregnant. There was no whoa from Ben, so who knows what'll happen there. My guess is, again, comedy, then it'll be depressing, and then it'll be comedic, and that's what's going to go on with Bailey. Richard and Gemma grabbing breakfast. This is another thing I want to talk about. Richard possibly cheating on Catherine, I think, is one of the stupidest storylines this show could possibly introduce. Do not let that happen. I would absolutely hate it. He cheated on Adele with Ellis. We accepted that because that's just kind of like how the storyline was. He then stayed with Adele. He loved Adele. Adele died. Ellis left. He made his marriage work with Adele. Adele died. He moved on with Catherine. And there's no and now his relationship with Catherine is in trouble, but he's married to Catherine. Do not cheat with Gemma. It'd be horrible. I just wouldn't support it at all. I think it'd be a really, really bad storyline. However, one of my favorite things about Grey's Anatomy is the family dynamic the show has. So to have one of the opening scenes of this trailer be the 3 sisters is fantastic to me because I just absolutely love seeing them together. I just think they have such a great charisma. They are able to bounce off each other. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. Again, with Joe having a storyline, that'll be good because last week she was a sounding board. So I want her to actually have something to do. There was nothing to do with Tom, Owen, or Teddy in the trailer, or the description. The description is interesting because it really only includes characters that we essentially see in the trailer minus Joe. So who knows? There's a lot of potential for really interesting storylines next week. Jackson wasn't in the trailer or the description either, but Jackson has such an important role in episode 4. I highly doubt in episode 5 his role will be as important. So overall, I thought the trailer for Breathe Again was very well cut. Lots of really nice scenes. I mean, this is a shot of at least every character that we know we're going to be vested in to some degree. My guess is, regrettably, Teddy will be background, Jackson will be background, Alex will lead into Weber's storyline, which will almost be like the B or C level storyline of the episode. Overall, I think Breathe Again has potential to be a fun episode, particularly depending on the result of Meredith's court for going for community service skipping, or court results, I should say, and what will happen with Richard and Gemma. So anyway, share your thoughts in the comments below about episode 4 and episode in the trailer of episode 5. I appreciate you watching my review of Grey's Anatomy season 16. More videos to come next week. All right, guys, take care. Bye.